All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. Quick update here for ASTS SpaceMobile. Ticker symbol ASTS. Yes, yes, yes. It's listed here on the Nasdaq. Stock down today, 2 1/3%, 23.83, down a little over half a point on the day. Continuing to slip, down 29 cents, about 1.2% here after hours. Let's find out what's going on. So, couple of things here. Obviously, we had the launch and it was successful, and the stock dropped. And I want to say, see, potentially we're reapproaching this low, right? This low here, 23.56. Stock technically slightly below that after hours, but if we open right around this level, we do have the potential for a double bottom, and we might have a bounce maybe back up to like 25, 25 and a half to try to retrace to that 20-day moving average. However, if we do form that bottom here, we can potentially kind of make the argument that we have like this descending triangle. And I was speaking last time about this trumpeting that took place after the last big run up to 40, and now we've kind of just been bouncing up and down. So we could potentially break down through this triangle, looks like about this level, 2352-ish, 2350, and we can maybe break down to this fib level here, 2271 first. If we immediately drop down to the bottom of the trumpet, you're looking at about 19, so that would be sub 20. And of course, this was a longer term support trend line here, top line resistance of old that I was looking at. And if we potentially immediately break down, we're looking at like 14 and a half, maybe about $15 over the next couple of weeks. And as much as you may not want to hear it, again, I have to say, unfortunately, it is very possible. It is very possible that this happened. The stock absolutely exploded. It went from about $230 up to $40 a share. So in a situation like that, of course, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, oh, I should have just sold it at 40 and rebought it. I mean, only time will tell whether you made that correct decision or not. But that is a pretty big run. And again, we spoke technically the company pre-revenue. And even after this big sell-off here, coming back down to the lower 20s, we're still sitting at a market cap of $6.5 billion. So again, we can potentially continue to just kind of slowly come back down to earth, bring that market cap back down. It could drop back down to 4 or 5 billion, no problem. And then it can potentially bounce off of another catalyst coming in. Now, we looked at the stock only about 2 weeks ago. It was like the 14th or something. And since then, we really haven't had much news. You constantly get these Wall Street bets updates. AST Mobile gains, 2 mega trends to ride over the next decade. Invest in AST SpaceMobile's 5G breakthrough. Wall Street bets, Wall Street bets, Wall Street bets. Stocks investors secretly monitor but don't talk about yet. I don't know what they're talking about. The stock exploded because you guys were getting it trending and talking about it online. Wall Street bets, what's going on? Shares dropped despite successful launch. So someone else posted an article. What is this? Let me see what this is. Oh, this is going to X. Okay. Whoa, this guy posted. Okay. People have short attention spans. Shout out to this person, I guess. People have short attention spans. Never been more bullish about our near long term. Reminder of upcoming catalysts. Don't let the short-term price action drive the narrative. Know what you own. Okay, so even though the stock is still pretty high from where it had the initial move, still up about 10x from that low $2 level, this person basically laying out and reiterating kind of one of our older kind of rules for the longer term, right? We know what we know. If we believe in a company over the longer term, as we say, we have to deal with the short-term volatility to look for the long-term growth. So, we can go over some of this. Completing warrant redemption, bringing in 157 mil of fresh capital tomorrow, the 27th. Okay. Unfolding of Bluebird's initial operations, 1 to 3 weeks. Multi-launch agreement with one or more launch providers, any day. Okay. Initiation of research cover. Yep. Okay. Filing of Verizon, AT&T, any day. Finalization of definitive commercial agreements with Verizon and Vodafone. FCC regulatory approval. Initial Bluebird 1.5 testing. International partners unlocking some of the 20, 25 mil, 65 mil revenue prepayments from AT&T, Vodafone, and Verizon upon completion of milestones. Potential first net funding. Execution of more commercial agreements. I mean, I appreciate all of this. I do appreciate all this, and I know this individual is pumped, and I'm not necessarily taking anything away from all of those catalysts that that person was laying out, because obviously we know, because it's such a heavily trending stock, even if it does drop down to 2019, if we get one of those catalysts that that person mentioned to hit, then yeah, the stock will most likely bounce and run up 10-12% back into the 20s before maybe selling off. People take profits, and then boom, you get your next catalyst maybe back up to the 20s, right? And then it starts selling off. So again, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade, and I respect the time taken to kind of research all of those potential catalysts coming out and laying them out on X for everyone. So again, shout out to that person. But at the end of the day, even if we get 100 mil in funding, or they push through that one of those agreements for 65 mil or whatever they were talking about, at the end of the day, it technically still is not enough to justify a $6.5 billion company. And again, like I say, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I have to try to be straightforward, honest, upfront. I have to try to be that realist for you, because I'm sure 99 out of 100 people you ask about this stock probably bought it, wanted to buy it, got in late, so now they want more, right? Everyone is going to be, for the most part, bullish on ASTS. And I am not saying that 2-3 years from now, the stock cannot absolutely explode and start signing contracts with everybody and have everyone using their satellites because it's more efficient. Totally understandable. But in the moment, a $6.5 billion market cap is still extreme. And even with 10, 60, 150 mil potentially coming in, we can easily bring this market cap back down to 1.5, 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion. And you could still make the argument that it's overvalued. And here we have a market cap of 6.5 billion. So I'm just trying to lay out what could potentially happen. And after we had the big initial spike here coming out of earnings, even though they were dismal, of course, and that initial run came from about 2080, it looks like, right? Sub 21. And then we popped and ran all the way to 40. So the stock doubled just since last earnings, right? And is now kind of consolidating and trending back downward. So that's why even seeing something like a descending triangle and a potential break to the low 20s, sub 20, I mean, you really can't call me crazy for pointing this out and kind of expecting this to happen. But even here, the previous level before we ran up, you can see kind of mid-range of this channel here is about like 18, 18 and a half, maybe about 19. So that's why I'm saying also a pullback, again, it seems like a big percentage drop. And you guys may be looking at it as, oh, I bought it at 7, it went up to 40, now you're telling me it's going to pull back to 19. First of all, you're still up almost 200%, right? That's first of all. Second of all, these pullbacks and these retracements kind of back to reality and back down to earth are healthy. The stocks need to do it, which is why I kept pointing out these rising wedges and how much the stock was up off of kind of such little news, but it just continued to break away out of the technicals, not really make much sense on the technical side or the fundamental side, and it just continued to pop up and up and up and up. And again, not to burst your bubble or come off like a schmuck, at the end of the day, the only way you really agree with these moves and kind of disagree with the way I'm looking at it is probably because you own it. So all you want to hear is that, oh, it's ready to pop back to 30 and then we're going to run back to 40. That's all you guys want to hear. And I appreciate that. But again, at the end of the day, we have to be a realist here. And of course, if you got in late on these rallies and you have a cost basis of like around here, like 23, 25, you saw that initial pop. So you see what could be coming on the horizon down the road, right? But here in the shorter term, like we say, if you got in late and now you're pulling back and now you're maybe red on the position, if you believe in the company long term, of course, whatever you do with this information is entirely your own prerogative. But if you believe in the company long term and you see it pull back to 20, 19, then yeah, if you really do love it over the next couple of years, you should view that as an opportunity. You shouldn't sit there and start beating yourself up. Oh, I'm such a fool. It ran so much. I bought it at 27. Now it's at 23. Oh, I knew I should have waited. Should I sell? Should I take a loss? Like, you remember, relax, right? Like we say, remember why you bought it and remember what you're looking for. And if you're looking to hold this over the next 3 years because you think it's really going to rally and everyone's going to start using their satellites and signing contracts with them, well, then again, if it dips down to 19, whatever, 16, it's going to suck in the short term, but you can view that as an opportunity to buy more shares, build a larger position, and potentially lower your cost basis. But in my opinion, I do think it breaks, and I think we see, again, this fib 2271, and then probably even lower, or probably, well, we should anyway, come back to about 20 or 19. But again, recent technicals haven't really lined up well for ASTS, and even the last time I did an update right around here, it looked like the stock was bull flagging, and then we woke up and it dropped and kind of got back to almost where it was and then rejected and dropped and then got back to almost where it was, forming the double top, and then it's rejected hard now over the last couple of days, right? So even when we see a technical potential bull flag forming, it doesn't always work out to how we expect it to. So this is one that's really just popping and dropping, and you just have to pick your spots. Unfortunately, there's no real big news here coming out recently. We can see the RSI again. People always try to tell me, oh, well, the stock's up because the RSI was low, or it's down because the RSI was high. But again, something that's trending on Wall Street bets, when the RSI explodes into the 80s and approaches 90, it doesn't matter. People still pump it and they still want more. So the RSI was heavily overextended here after we hit the 40 pop, and now we started to pull back. The one thing that I see also is that we had a pop up here, looks like it rejected, excuse me, looks like it rejected off of the 50-day moving average, 2490, ended up closing at 2383, low of the day 2382. So technically it's off of the bear hammer forming by 1 cent, but it did almost basically form that bear hammer. So that's why I'm saying it could potentially be showing us that we are in this descending triangle and we may have a drop before we have that next pop off of maybe one of those catalysts that person was laying out. But we can see we hit a low 2382, bottom Bollinger Band 23.5, and again we technically see the day before we went below the moving average, but it looks like it closed above it. And here you can see we have a close now below our 50-day moving average. So technically that does indicate bearish momentum. RSI again was well overextended, and even though it's down, it's still sitting here at 42. So we can continue to slip this stock down to the very low 20s, sub 20, approach that RSI at that 30 benchmark, and then potentially bounce it when all the traders want to pile back in. MACD obviously was raging, recently crossed to the downside, looks like about 4 weeks ago, and just has been trending downward, consolidating there. Let's check the weekly. Again, that's what I mean. Look at the weekly RSI here, up above the 70 benchmark for months straight, for several straight months. RSI getting above 90 on that 40 pop, and is now pulling back down to earth. And we can see the mid Bollinger Band here probably going to be approaching like that 18, maybe 18 and a quarter, 18 and a half mark if the stock continues to pull back and drop down. 18 and a half mark was again kind of the mid-range of that previous kind of consolidation that took place the end of July going into August, which of course could potentially meet up with our bottom trumpet trend line here at around 18 and a half, the high 18s, right? So it might all be lining up here for a technical sell-off, but as we say again, if you believe in it long term, then you have to deal with the short-term volatility. to look for the long-term growth. 50-day moving average has now been climbing since June, basically, and has gone from 4, now it's up to 9.25. 200-day moving average established now, and we can see that it basically was flat, trending down with the stock, and is now starting to curl up here with this higher value, sitting here at 8.5. And again, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but as crazy as it sounds, if the stock does pull back to like 10 or 9, believe it or not, I think, in my opinion, is justified. And I think it would be bringing the stock down to a realistic valuation. But I know you guys like it, and I know that you keep it trending. And anytime there's a dip, a lot of you may step in and may add to your position. So a pullback all the way down here, I don't know about that. But a pullback to 19, 18, 17, I think is very doable. Is very doable. Especially, again, we had the MACD absolutely explode to the moon. Now we're curling back to the downside. So even if we start to pull back, we may have the little bounces on the daily RSI approaching 30 and whatnot. But if we do have a MACD cross down to the downside, that is definitely going to add to the bearish momentum. And you may even see a pullback to like 16 or like this level here, kind of like 13. See how it ran up and paused, retested, and then had a big explosion. So that can happen as well, maybe about 12, 13 a share. So we'll see, obviously. But unfortunately, because it went so high so fast, we kind of threw the technicals out the window, right? So people try to tell me, well, they ask me, oh, how's it look on the technical side? Well, in the technical side, it's kind of has a mind of its own, right? And then people ask me, well, what about the numbers? How's it look on the fundamental side? Well, we went so high so quick that, again, even if the company brings in 200 million in revenue, we have a market cap of 6+ billion. So we'd be trading roughly 30 times that number, right? So that's what I mean. That's why, again, I'm not saying it's a bad stock, and I'm not saying 3 years from now it could be $123 a share. But here in the moment, it ran almost 2,000%. And what goes up must come down. We have to at least retrace it back, most of that move, at least a 50% retracement, before we can potentially bounce it. But again, if we do have that many catalysts on the horizon, we may have these short bounces. But here in the technical side, in my opinion, it does look like it's ready to break and continue to drop lower. But RSI, again, 62 still here on the weekly, so we can definitely continue to keep dropping. I'm looking for those high teens. That's just me, though. I'm looking for the high teens. Obviously, if you guys see something different, if you're watching a different pivot point, if you see something else in the technicals, if you're also keeping an eye on all of those potential catalysts that are upcoming, and you do think that something's going to happen over the next week or so, like we say, you guys have carte blanche in the comments section. So drop down any info, any input you have on this situation, to kind of just lay out, the calendar of maybe some upcoming events. But let's look at some previous points here, actually. So yeah, this was like 32. We looked at that last time. And this previous pivot point here, you can see, is about 1990, 1999, right? So that's why a pullback to 20 isn't too crazy. And this previous pivot point here, what do you know? It's about 18 1/3. Which of course is where the stock bounced, paused, and then had the next big breakup to 20 plus. So that's why, again, I think we have a lot of technicals potentially lining up for a pullback to the 19s and the 18s. And this previous pivot point here, 13.5. Again, what I'd say about 12.5, 13 here, where the stock paused before taking the next big higher, the next leg higher, right? This is how it works. This is how it works. And again, the only reason why this had such a big explosion, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have gone up, but it went up so much because of Reddit. We have to call it like it is, right? Because we have a lot of other stocks that we look at that we feel should have these pops and these runs and come out with good news, and we don't really gain this type of momentum, right? But if all the good names we looked at were all trending on Wall Street bets along with ASTS, then yes, they probably all would have had, explosions like this, just like ASTS did. So again, I'm just kind of trying to, just kind of interpret for you the precise situation and environment that this stock is in and what's surrounding it. And that's why, after running up so much, even having a pullback to 18 or 15, you really can't get that upset. You really can't. And chances are, like we say, most of you probably got in and you're going to hold it probably for the next 2, 3, 5 years. So regardless of what we feel may happen over the next month or so, really probably shouldn't matter too much to you. But we do have a lot of technicals potentially lining up a pullback. And of course, I know you guys are all pumped about this one and keeping an eye on it. So of course, if and when some of those catalysts do start to come to fruition and hit the tape, we'll jump on and we'll do a quick update for you. But that's pretty much it. So I'll end it there. Once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any, that's my OBS. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel, right? And of course, subscribe to the channel. That's really all I ask. That's our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.